What is up, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of Father Dynasty. I am your fatherly host, Chu, here in the manhole, here to talk fatherhood, fantasy football, and everything in between. And with me today is a very special guest. Our connection runs much deeper than simply fatherhood and fantasy football, as we both played real football, as you would say soccer, back in the day. Follow him on Twitter at FFChalupaBatman, and check him out as the host of the Tripwire podcast and Beyond the Analyst under the Triple Play Fantasy umbrella, as well as the director of content for Fantasy and Frames and a writer for Club Fantasy FFL. I am exhausted, but Zach, how are you doing?
I'm also exhausted. I just had a newborn a few weeks ago. When this comes out, she'll just be over a month old, but right now when we're recording, she's 3 weeks old, so I am also exhausted.
I'd say it certainly takes a village, so hopefully... I know you got the two other kiddos. I'm sure they're being incredibly helpful, right?
For the most part, yeah. I guess now the middle child, not the youngest anymore. He's really excited when it comes to helping out for changing diapers, which I appreciate. So he gets everything together. He takes it very seriously. But overall, they're very excited. We are working on so the first time we brought her home, the oldest said, "Can I pet her?" So that was hilarious. Got that on video. And we're still working on my middle one, not calling her a that or an it. But hey, I mean, I guess he's being progressive. So right. we're working on him, understanding that he has a baby sister. But that's right. All good.
And I was going to say, I didn't even think about that. So do you have any pets?
No, and 3 kids is enough. We will not have any pets.
That's right. I was going to say, yeah. This is your pet sister. There you go.
Yep.
Oh man. All right, well, Zach, I've got a keep trade cut especially for you, so are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right, so keep trade cut, the fantasy football tool. Some people like it. Seemingly, a lot of people hate it. It is, of course, a way to grade things. Keep being what you rank first or like the best. Cut, of course, third or like the least. And the first topic I have for you is Like Mike. And sadly, it is not a reference to the Disney movie Little Bow Wow. Great movie. It is actually the many faces of Michael Scott, a beloved character in one of my favorite shows. And these are 3 characters that Michael Scott himself has within the show. So basically the inception of Michael Scott. So the 3 I've got here are Date Mike. I do have a Kangol hat, and I should have brought it. That's my fault. Prison Mike. I don't have a bandana. And Michael Scarn. So how do you rank these 3 faces of Michael Scott?
So I think this is easy for me. We have to cut Date Mike because he is the worst. Sorry with the Kangol hat, but he's the worst. And then it is really tough when it comes to keeping and trading. I really like to think about value as well. What can I get the most out of that trade? So I think I should be trading Michael Scarn, but he is too awesome, and I want him around. So I'm going to keep Michael Scarn, and we are going to trade Prison Mike and the Dementors.
I like that. Yeah. So you're thinking of longevity. Michael Scarn. I mean, he seems pretty resourceful. He knows how to shoot off Toby's head in an explosive fashion with the effects. So I like that.
Yep, he saved the president. We got it. He's covered. Yep.
Oh man. Well, as you were talking about it a little bit before, you've got a young one, the third in the family, and the second topic, kids will be kids. So of course, having more kids is getting a chance to either revisit the kids shows and movies that we used to enjoy, or watch how they have destroyed the second, third, and fourth iterations of them now. But these are 3 kid shows. Want you to rank. So the first one is Baby Shark, second one is Bluey, and third is SpongeBob.
All right, absolutely cutting Baby Shark. You didn't have to give me the other ones. I was already cutting Baby Shark. This one is tough. I mean, my kids do not watch SpongeBob yet. They're too young for him. We do watch a lot of Bluey.
Yeah,
I feel like Bluey's probably my favorite of what the kids watch, but I'm gonna have to trade Bluey because I think Bluey just has an insane. That's like a 101 value right now, and I'll keep SpongeBob because at least he's entertaining enough that I don't mind watching SpongeBob, but I'll take pure value from Bluey.
Yeah, it almost feels like, and I don't know if this is hot takey or not, but it almost feels like what George Pickens started escalating to with all of his amazing catches. He's becoming the Bluey, although now he's descending back down to everyone hates him because Deontay Johnson didn't catch any touchdowns. But that's for another day.
Yeah.
And the third one here, not really keep trade cut, but more just kind of a bonus question, if you will. So my wife and I have probably in the last year or so, reclaimed our basement from our 4-year-old. Previously, it was we moved into the house. He had all of his toys down there. He could basically do whatever he wants, throw stuff at the walls, not a problem. We've now decided that we now move him up to a different room where he can't destroy things ideally. We got a pool table down there. We got dartboard down there, all that kind of stuff. And my wife, for decoration, she decided to think about putting up a couple of movie posters. And we had room for 7, so I got 4 and she got 3. Her choice, not mine. And the 4 that I picked are Anchorman, Boondock Saints, Jaws, and Goldfinger. And the 3 that my wife picked are Pretty Woman, Harry Potter, I think the 5th one, and Mean Girls. So if you had 3 movie posters, any 3, that you would be able to put up in your man cave or a room in your house, and they could not be vetoed, what would your 3 be?
All right. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know like the poster itself very well, so I'm just gonna go based off of the movies that I like and want to have around. So Top Gun, the first, nice. The original. I mean, I love Top Gun Maverick, don't get me wrong, but the original is the poster that I want down there. Let's see, number 2, I'm gonna have to go with Old School.
Nice.
Like that's just a classic. I think it fits well with the atmosphere I'm trying to have in this area. And let's see, I feel like I do need a Disney movie. But let's go with Mighty Ducks to keep the sports theme going, but still add a little Disney in there.
Oh, I love that. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've heard Top Gun yet, but that I can see that right now. That would be an incredible poster to have up. That's a timeless one. That was kind of the reason why I went for like Jaws and Goldfinger. I was like, I could do a number of posters, but I was like, I want to have something older but kind of notable, and like Jaws, being just like the picturesque, the shark coming up. So I think Top Gun would be incredible. Say jumping into a couple of questions here. So as you mentioned, I believe it was March 11th, your daughter was born.
Yep.
That was when you're as you referenced your draft picks, the 101. And how has the process been with the latest edition for your family? So I know you mentioned a little bit of you've got your other 2 kids, the one helping with changing and just kind of figuring out dynamics and schedules and all that kind of stuff. So how has that process been for you and your wife?
Yeah, fortunately, I was able to take off a lot of time from work, so I'm still on paternity leave right now, which is great. So it'll be a lot different in a few weeks when I go back to work, and eventually my wife has to go back to work, and then we got to juggle both of our work schedules, getting our oldest to school and back from school every day. So right now, it hasn't been too bad. I would say the hardest is my sleep. Like I haven't slept in, let's be honest, in like 6.5 years since my oldest was born. But finding that like a few hours in the middle of the night, luckily Madison's been sleeping really well. But I have to get my kids to get my oldest ready for school, and I take my middle one now, I keep calling my youngest, with me so that the baby can sleep with my wife. And so that can be a challenge if Madison gets up a couple hours or even an hour before I'm supposed to get up with them, and I'm like, I just want to sleep, and I got to get up, get them moving, get him to school, and then once we get home, then it's pretty chill. It hasn't been too bad. She's, like I said, she's a really chill baby right now. It's just really kind of getting to understand her cues. It does help that she's my third. I was actually just talking to my wife about this before we got on. Like, I feel like my first kid was my hardest, and I don't know if that was just because he was my first, so I was learning a lot with him, or if he just was the hardest of the 3. So it has been nicer that like I said, Madison's really chill. I kind of understand her cues better. I mean, changing a diaper is nothing right now. Burping, all that. Like, I'm just used to it. Like, I remember with my first, I was so like they're like so fragile, and I'm like, oh, like every little noise, like, are they breathing? Like, are they alive? What does that noise mean? And now I'm just like, throw up there, burper, change it. Like, it's just like second nature now. So it's been a lot easier now, but it definitely, having another one just makes the dynamics a little different with the logistics of, I still have to take care of my other 2 kids, and they still have activities, and I don't want them to feel neglected. So still have to get them outside, doing stuff, having fun, while also then helping out and getting the baby taken care of as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, hats off. It adds another layer for sure. And I guess kind of like you were mentioning, every kid being different, but like there's a lot of those things that are, I guess, transferable skills in terms of, you've done it before, so it can help. And even if it's kind of adding a layer, adding another kid, adding another kind of block in the schedule, so to speak. And I'm certainly when they're younger, it's everything. It's very strict schedule just to make sure everything's on cue. So I know that one thing, following you on Twitter and seeing a lot of stuff you'd post about would be your fitness routine and kind of like your journey and going through that. I know that kind of early into having the third child. I know you mentioned you'd still be on paternity leave now, but how's the fitness routine been impacted? I guess maybe that might be a question for once you get back into both you and your wife working and kind of figuring things out how that works for you.
Sure. So I definitely don't go to the gym enough as much as I should. I work out at home a lot, just doing a lot of like body weight workouts. I would love to go to the gym more, but finding that time while balancing all the kids' activities, wanting to do my fantasy content and all of that,
Mm.
sometimes I sacrifice gym time and I just work out at home. So that hasn't changed as much. I still would like to get back to the gym more. And I do honestly take a break from the gym at the beginning of every year anyway, with everyone going so much in January and February, which hats off to them. I appreciate everyone wanting to be more healthy. That's how I was as well. But then you'll see a lot of less traffic as the year goes on. So I definitely try to avoid the gym for the first couple months of the year. And then also I have taken a break since Madison's been born for the last few weeks, just to kind of give my body a rest, as I'm trying to get as much sleep as I can. But now starting this week, I'm kind of getting back to my routine. But yeah, it hasn't been too bad. Like I said, I don't try to go crazy. I'm not, and when I do go to the gym, it's not a long time. It's 30 minutes, maybe 40, 45 minutes max. I'm at home. I'm looking for 15, 20, 25-minute workout. Usually I try to incorporate one or two of the kids if they're around and they want to be a part of it. But yeah, I try to keep it simple. It's more for me, it's about consistency and trying to get in a little workout every day as opposed to just one or two big workouts a week. I don't find that as helpful for what my goals are.
Yeah, and you mentioned getting your kids involved with some of your workouts. Do you ever like you're doing some sort of workout like especially if they were younger, it being funny like if you're doing a push up and your kids trying to like weirdly awkwardly attempt to do a push up, but it's just the most adorable thing of like them trying to like match whatever you're doing. Like, are you doing squats? I'm doing squats now. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely much better at squats than they are at push-ups. Definitely. They usually like to like get on my back. I can't really do that as much now. My kids are getting way too big for that. It was fun at first, and now I'm like, okay, like one of them is over 50 pounds, the other one's about to hit 50. Like, I can do like a couple, and then I'm like, okay, this is enough of a workout with you. Thank you, I appreciate it. Benching them is always funny. They laugh at that. Squatting them is fun. But yeah, otherwise, sometimes they just like to do their own thing. It's hilarious watching them do jumping jacks. So you said you had a 4-year-old. If you ever want to see an uncoordinated kid just flail around, ask them to do jumping jacks because they will not get their arms or legs correct. So that's hilarious. But yeah, just trying to have fun with them when I can. Like I said, if I can get them to have fun, just run around, burn some energy, then help very well.
Absolutely. And I know you're mentioning about like the kids getting activities and stuff. Are they maybe doing say soccer or something like that?
Yeah, so my oldest started soccer when he was 3, so I've been coaching him. So we just finished 11th season. Sorry. Sorry, might have lost you there.
Oh.
There you go. I'm back now. So 4 seasons a year. That's how the math checks out with soccer.
Gotcha.
So he's done it 11 seasons. My youngest just finishes third second season. So that was intense doing both. So my wife helps me coach as well, which is great because especially the 3 and 4
Nice.
year olds, it's like herding cats. They don't listen. They don't know. I mean, honestly, keeping them on the field is really the goal every game. Half of
Yeah.
them won't even stay on the field. So I'm more of the demonstrator. She has no soccer experience other than now coaching with me. So I'm the one who kind of shows them how to do everything. She kind of talks to them in a way that they understand it, 3 and 4 years old.
Yeah.
And then I've the 5. Then we moved it up to 5, 6 for my oldest. Much easier for me. They're a lot more attentive. They still struggle with paying attention, but it's easier. They're more excited to play, most of them.
Mm.
But the way their schedules overlap, they overlap. So I will practice with the 3, 4 year olds. Then they'll start their game, which my wife will handle. I will then go do the 5, 6 practice, and then we'll both be there for the 5, 6 game. So that's been intense. So we took a break for the spring with us having a baby, and I will only do one in the summer for my middle child, since my oldest doesn't seem to really be too excited about soccer anymore, which is fine. We're going to give out karate a try probably next week, actually.
Nice.
See how that goes for him. Just let him try a bunch of different things, see what he likes. He wants to do flag football in the fall, so we'll see if we can get that in there. But I do enjoy coaching them. Honestly, I don't trust anybody else to coach them at their age right now. I feel the most comfortable with making sure that they're getting the knowledge that they need, but also having fun while doing it in the correct structure.
Oh, absolutely. And that's fun. That's very funny that you just mentioned karate, because my wife and I were specifically looking into getting our son into it. And I don't, is that something that you have done yourself, or it's just kind of looking for like what's another thing they can do, just stumbling into it like that?
Yeah, I've never done it before. I remember doing judo. I think once it was like one of those like intro sessions, like, hey, see what it's like. And it was probably like third grade, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember. It was in elementary school. I tried it one time. It was not for me. That's as much martial arts experience as I have. So no, it was something that he's seen, so he wanted to try it out. So like, oh, we'll take you along. We'll see how it goes. My middle child will also try that as well, because I mean, I gotta bring him around with me anyway, so might as well kill two birds with one stone.
That's right. Say, well, what would you say is the most, I guess, for one, challenging, but then two, rewarding thing about parenting?
Sure. So kids I feel like you're like diffusing a bomb. Kind of feels like where like if you don't do it just right, it's gonna blow up on you, and if you do it right, I mean, you feel like you just saved the world. So I don't know. I feel like I don't want to mess up, but at the same time, if you think about messing up, you're gonna mess up. So it's like that paradox of you just try your best, hope it's good enough, and then we'll see what the impacts are in 10 to
Yeah.
15 years. But yeah, no, it definitely gets tough with that balance of like I need to work to provide for them and for my family. My wife needs to work to provide. I mean, I don't make that much money, so we're definitely a two income household. So finding that balance of making sure that I'm putting that effort into work, but then when I'm at home, giving them my attention. And then obviously fantasy football is a huge hobby of mine. That's like my one thing that I get to do that's for me. So then finding that balance of when do I have time to do that? So not getting on every show every night, hopping on, but picking my time, balancing it out so that way I can spend time with my wife, but also have my hobby, take care of the kids. So it's just like I said, it's a balancing act. It's definitely rewarding because you get that unconditional love, and it's great when they do something where they're just proud that you're proud of them, which is always great to see. And then at the same time, it's also extremely frustrating because you cannot reason with a toddler at all. It doesn't work. So don't try, but you want to try because you're like, it's just the constant, why? I wish I knew, buddy. I don't have all the answers. I appreciate that you think I know. I don't, but you don't want to kill that curiosity because it's a great thing as well. So it's that fine balance of not trying to break their spirits while also trying to maintain your sanity.
Yeah. The why thing, I think I never fully appreciated it until my son also decided to watch an episode of Peppa Pig where George, through the entire episode, was just saying why. I didn't count it when I watched it, but it just constantly and frustrating, Peppa and the parents and everything. And then my son has watched that episode enough to where he will just mimic that, and like he'll get the answer, like whatever the answer is, he knows that's the right answer, and then he just keeps going why, only because he's just mimicking that, not because he didn't get the answer. I'm like, I just told you what the answer was. What do you mean why? And then I stop myself. I'm like, one, he's mimicking a show, so I need to calm down. Two, he's just curious. So I kind of run into a roadblock at some point. Like I sometimes get in a loop where I give one answer, he asks why, I give another one, and then it's just a circular loop of like the same two answers over and over again. But it's hilarious, frustrating, and also it is incredibly rewarding when it's you see something kind of click for him, and like they ask you why a couple of times, but then the next time they give you the answer, like they kind of remembered, like, oh yeah, this is why. That doesn't always happen. Usually it's just a bunch of whys, but we'll take our small victories.
Yeah, we don't watch Peppa Pig. Luckily, the kids never really got into it, and it wasn't really something I enjoyed either. So I was like, we're not going to bring that up. But my oldest now, he likes to say, I know, after I give an answer that he didn't know, because he asked me, and I know he didn't know the answer. So I'll tell him the answer. He's like, I know. I'm like, I try not to like say anything, and in my head I'm like, you didn't know, that's why you asked. And I don't know why you think that saying I know is. I'm sure he picked it up at school. But yeah, that's his new thing. The last couple of weeks I've noticed.
Yeah, that's the funny thing when they pick the stuff up at school. Like they respond with something, and then you just like kind of double take, like, what did you just say? And it's like, I know I don't say that. And then there's like, then they just rat the kid out like, oh yeah, it was Tommy over at preschool. All right, well, good. I'll remember that. I'll remember that for next time. So maybe teach Tommy something. Oh man, well, you kind of hinted at it a little bit, and certainly talking about schedule, and I mean soccer on soccer, and talk just everything that you and your wife do, and balancing all you guys do. So, how do you, I guess, best try and balance everything? Whether it's work, it's kids' schedules, it's content creation, that sort of thing, and also just, I mean, simply time for yourself and your wife, that kind of thing, just to kind of keep the sanity there.
Sure. So it's definitely practice makes perfect. I'm going to make a lot more mistakes at this, and then I learned what I did wrong, and then okay, let's correct it next time. But I would say for me, especially with work, fortunately, I'm able to kind of like when I'm at work, I'm at work. But when I come home, I leave work at work. I don't really think about work too much. I don't stress about it. So that's helpful. I know not everyone has that luxury. And then when I'm at home, it's just really trying to find a balance of giving my attention to all the kids equally, and or at least make them feel like it's equal. Give attention to my wife, get dinner together, get stuff cleaned up, organized around the house, all that. And then once the kids are into bed, then finding the balance of okay, does my wife have work to do tonight? If that's a great time for me to get fantasy content done because she's not gonna be mad that I'm on the laptop. And if she doesn't have work to do and I don't really have any deadlines that I need to meet, okay, well it's time for us. So is there a show or a movie we want to watch? What's going on for this evening? How early do I need to wake up the next day? Because my job does start very early in the mornings. So just kind of figuring all of that out. But yeah, I would say every day is a little different. We kind of have a decent routine. A calendar is a wonderful thing. I cannot remember all of our appointments. Actually, when we're recording this, I had to take him to get an x-ray this morning, completely forgot. So we were now taking them tomorrow morning, so I will get that taken care of. But stuff like that, and that was on the calendar. I didn't check it this morning. That was my fault. But live and learn. I will now check the calendar every morning because I've made that mistake now once. Won't make it again. So yeah, that's how we do the balance thing. Is just trial and error.
Yeah, and say with the calendar, is it the calendar on the fridge? Is it the Google, like the shared calendar between like you and your wife? You can both like check in, like, oh, it's this, it's that.
Oh no, that's way too fancy. No, I got a free like Disney calendar from work.
Nice.
And so it's got like nice pictures of like the parks and all that. So she literally, it's more just for like appointments. So it's
Gotcha.
more of like where do I need to get somebody or take somebody or where does she need to go? That sort of thing. It's not like our full like schedule for that day.
Yeah, it's the schedule certainly as things kind of rack up. I mean, like you're saying, like whether it's sports, whether it's doctor's appointments, whether it's just other after school activities, that kind of thing. Especially if you get in that routine of like if there's something every week, it's normally a certain way, but like for my son's preschool on the last Monday of every month is they have like kind of like a teacher work session kind of thing. So I have to pick him up an hour early. And I usually have just my alarm set for every week. It's the same time. And then I have to, on my like Google Calendar, set a thing on that day, like an hour before I even need to be aware, be like, I need to remember this because I'm not too far from the preschool. But if I have to travel or if I have to, be going somewhere that day and then I'm panicked, in the middle of traffic being like, oh, I gotta get back across town to go get my son. But yeah, calendar is definitely king and keeping everybody straight as much as we can.
Yeah, no, the hour early dismissal definitely messed me up once. So he gets out an hour early every Wednesday,
Okay.
which sounds like it would be easier, which it is because it's just every Wednesday. So I normally am working Wednesdays, and so I just leave a little bit early from work. It's just built in my schedule, no big deal. I go get them, all good. Well, this one week, I had like a work event, like as a celebration thing, so I took some extra time off.
Mm.
So instead of working that Wednesday, I was off. My wife was at work. I had my at the time I only had two kids. I had my youngest with me, and I just thought it was a normal day. Normally I'm only off on Mondays when I'm at home, so I guess in my brain I thought it was a Monday, not a Wednesday. So I was going about the normal routine. Got my kid down for nap at a normal time. Got him up. All right, let's go. Time to go get your brother. And then my wife calls me as I'm like 2 minutes from the school. She's like, "Hey, did you forget to pick up Cameron?" I'm like, "No." I'm like 2 minutes from the school. Like I still got like 5 minutes until they let him out. Like timed it perfectly. It's like, yeah, they got out an hour early today. It's Wednesday. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, yeah, the school just called me and they're wondering where you were. And I was like, all right, well, I will be there in 2 minutes. It'll be fine. And he was fine. He was like, why are you so late? I was like, my bad, man. I forgot it was Wednesday. I was like, he loves sushi, so I was like, Publix has the sales on Wednesdays for sushi. I was like, let's go get you some sushi, and he was happy. No big deal. No harm, no foul. My wife still reminds me of all the time, but that was the only time I've ever forgotten him. And in my mind, I was right on time. I actually got there a couple minutes early in my mind, so I was actually late. But yeah, so that's the worst I've done so far with the school pickups.
Well, it still sounds like a pass because I mean, you even got there early from what it would have been, and like you already, if it was like if you just simply had no concept of like you were sitting at home and you were just like, I'm having a great day, I'm not doing anything, and then you're like, oh my god, I need to get to the school right now.
Yeah, fortunately, I picked him up enough that like I don't forget that part of it. So we didn't forget that. We just forgot the day of the week and that it was an hour early.
Gotcha. Well, and like you said a couple of times, I mean, it's like it happens once, you're like, all right, never again. I made a note, yep. I got it. Oh man. Well, so I know you guys, family has a lot of stuff going on, a lot of change, but for the NFL offseason for you, say as a content creator, what does that look like? I mean, I know the NFL offseason for the sake of creating content, certainly if it's Dynasty, Devy, that kind of thing, there's never really, I guess, a downtime necessarily, maybe right after the Super Bowl. But how is your workload and your process kind of looked like in the offseason?
Sure. So it's really interesting. Now I'm going into my third year of creating content now. And I've taken on a lot more different responsibilities than just being a writer. Now that I'm director of content for Fantasy and Frames. So it's fun kind of getting that team set up this offseason. We more than doubled the size of our team just so we can get out more content and not put as much stress on all of us to put out content. But it is really interesting because, as you know, honestly, from the grand scheme of things, now is actually like a dead time for content creation. For like more like content, like consumers wanting content. I mean, other than your degenerates like us that are doing Dynasty drafts right now, or wanting to know about rookie stuff. I mean, it's still as popular as Dynasty is, it's still very small compared to redraft. So, I mean, really until you get into July and really August, that's really like the peak time, in my opinion, for content. And then we probably got maybe a month into the season. And then once people start, I mean, obviously they didn't follow our advice enough, they start losing enough, they just give up. And then you'll see consumers drop. Oh, excuse me. So it's interesting because we like putting out content, but how many people are actually looking at it? So it's really curtailing the content right now to the ones that are looking at it. What are they looking for? So right now it's all about Dynasty, all about rookies. You mentioned Devy. That's not my forte, but there are a lot of wonderful people out there talking about it. So it's definitely trying to find the best way to capture it. It seems to me the most popular, as at least the way of drop to your content, and then maybe mixing in some long form, whether it's a podcast or a video, or some articles, just to then get them to subscribe and to stay. But yeah, it's finding that balance of what are people looking for right now, how do you get their attention, and then how do you get them to stay. So for me, I've tried to kind of step away from articles more so. I still do some here and there for Club Fantasy, but I try to focus a lot more of my time on short form videos, podcasts, and then like I have my own interview series that I do for the off season because that's just fun. And then for Fantasy and Frames, I do a lot more of their behind the scenes, getting kind of them set up and then doing their graphics, because that's something that I am not a pro at graphics whatsoever. I taught myself last year through Canva, which is very user friendly, and just been playing around with it for a while. But it's just something for me to help contribute to the team. Doesn't take a lot of my time. I can get it knocked out ahead of time for the most part, or in the season, I was doing a lot of fun stuff for the DFS guys, putting their lineups together. But again, I got a template, so it's really easy to plug and play, and there it's done. So just any way I can find to have a little fun with it while also hopefully contributing to the team. But yeah, it's definitely, like we've talked about balance a lot this episode. I would say content creation right now in the off season is also about balance.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting as you kind of break it down in terms of what it looks like and how, I guess the level of interest that people have, and I guess the certain market you're really hitting when it's like, you'll have those people that are just, as you mentioned, and as I'd wholeheartedly agree, degenerates that just are looking for any bit of content at any point in the year, almost regardless of what it is. Maybe, certain things here or there, they're just nonstop. It's mocks, it's rookie stuff, it's whatever, but buy low, sell high, that kind of thing. But interesting to think about maybe the more casual fan. It truly is a peaks and valleys of, when they're in, they're kind of clipping along. They're just Google searching, hey, let me look at this, look at that. When they're out, it's the app's off their phone. They have no idea for a couple of months what is even happening in the football world, and then they kind of come back in and try to catch back up. So it's interesting to kind of the different levels of fandom, and how you can kind of try to appeal to all of them, or at least enough to kind of keep that customer base, viewer base coming back.
Yep. And we got to get trapped in our Twitter bubble, if you will, because I mean, we all follow each other. We all talk to each other. We're all putting out content, sharing each other's content, which is great. I love the fantasy community, but we also forget that we are the exception, not the rule when it comes to consumers. Because I'll talk to my friends. I'm like, oh, did you see? They're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, and I like to actually use my wife as a good barometer because she does play fantasy, and she's been playing in a home league with me for several years. She kicks my butt every year. I'll be honest. It hurts. I still think about it all the time. But like, I know that she has no idea what's happened in free agency. It didn't even matter that she was pregnant, just had a child. Like, she doesn't matter what's going on. She would have no idea. It won't be until August when I'm talking to her like, hey, we got our draft coming up. You might want to know about some of these players. Yeah. Here's some information. You do with it what you want. I don't do her draft picks for her. I want to beat her. I'm just going to give her information. And she's like, when did he join that team? I was like, well, one, he's been on that team for 2 years now. Or I'm like, yeah, he joined, he got traded, or he re-signed with this team. Yeah. So that's always fun. And I'm like, oh, I mean, honestly, she's probably a lot like most of the people that we just don't interact with. And so you have to kind of remember to kind of curtail your content to, like, it might sound silly, but you might want to talk about all the free agent moves in July of what happened, maybe some of the big ones of players that have changed as you get into training camps, stuff like that. Were there any trades? Some of the highlight the rookies, even though it's been a couple months since the draft, because like you said, some people have been checked out since the Super Bowl, or maybe they even checked out since their fantasy season ended, which could have been early January. And now it comes August. They got a week until their draft. They forgot it's tomorrow. They just print out a ranks list. So how can you help them out? That sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really funny when you kind of look at it that way. Of certainly through at the off season, I love the chaos that is the NFL off season, and so I mean, my phone more so through Twitter and just different, like Roto, whatever, different alerts just kind of coming through of different transactions happening. So like my like when I'm reading, like looking at my phone and like my facial reaction, I think my wife assumes like something way cooler is happening. And then I just kind of meant to like, oh my God, they just traded for this person, or like this, like I'm a Carolina Panthers fan. So she got to see the highs and lows of like, oh my God, they got the first pick. And I was like, they traded away DJ Moore. Like my wife got to just watch that in real time happen. But before I said anything, she saw my face. She was like, what happened? And I had to explain it. She was like, not like it wasn't a big deal, but kind of just like, really?
I don't care.
That got that reaction? I was like, yeah, what do you want me to do? Oh, man. Well, so in terms of, content creation, I know one thing I like to think about in talking with guests is traditionally, what is like, your main thing to focus on, and one piece of advice you give somebody. Now I've kind of been thinking about it maybe in the different way as people get deeper and deeper into it, thinking about maybe what is one thing not to do for maybe someone who is an up and coming content creator, I guess, whether that be podcasting, whether that be article writing, that sort of thing.
Sure. I think the easiest one is don't be an a-hole. It sounds really simple. I think it's harder for some than others, and that's okay. For some, it's their shtick. That's great. You'll get a lot of clicks that way. I mean, hot takes get you clicks. I guarantee you you will eventually fizzle out. You will not make a lot of true relationships in this space if you're just an a-hole. I would say in general, most of the people in the community are wonderful people, very helpful, very supportive. So build relationships, I think, is the key. So what not to do is don't be a jerk. And then what to do based off of that is to reach out to people, and which can be stressful for some. Networking is not easy for everybody. I think most people, it makes them sweat. It's okay. I mean, it's okay to cold DM someone. Hopefully you've had positive interactions with them already, and it's not, you're literally just some like complete random, or maybe you were an a-hole to this person before with their advice, and now they might remember you. They might have muted you, they might have blocked you, and now you're like, hey, so can you help me out with this? And you might not get as great of a reception. So understand that what you put out there on the internet or anywhere, kind of think of it as your resume, because it sounds creepy, but someone's always watching, especially if you're looking to get opportunities out there. They may scroll through your Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, just to see kind of the kind of person you are, maybe some content you've put out. So think about that. And then also whether you're with a group or not yet, or a team, start writing, start creating videos, whatever kind of content you're interested in doing, start doing that. So that way you have something to show somebody, hey, here's what I'm working on. And they'll understand that you're new and that you may need some help, but it's hard for them to help you when you're starting with nothing. If you bring something to the table of like, hey, here's where I'm at, well, then they can work with that. So don't feel, I mean, it's nerve-wracking to start. I would say it definitely feels, what's the word I'm looking for? Vulnerable when you're putting out content, because you're putting out your opinion for people to kind of give their opinion of your opinion, which can be tough. So just understand that, hey, you're not going to be right every time. That's okay. Have fun with it. As long as you have a process and you're being transparent about it. For me, it's always process over results. So as long as it makes sense, you're being valid, fair, transparent. I mean, that's all you can do. I mean, we are playing a game that's made up about a game that we have no control over. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Oh, yeah. So as long as you, like I said, you're being transparent, that's really, and I would say be yourself, find what is fun for you. Because if this isn't fun, I mean, especially if you're not getting paid, which there's not a ton of paid full-time positions out there, which is, I understand. So if you're not getting paid, I mean, what are you doing if you're not having fun? So find a way to make it fun and don't be a jerk.
I like that. Getting into, I guess, fantasy Twitter, when I had started this, I mean, I'd been off Twitter for, probably better part of like a decade, in terms of like the only social media I had was, I think it was like, Snap. I only had basically one at a time. My wife always joked that I was just an old person because she would explain something to me, like some new feature on Instagram. And I'm like, I don't even know what the first thing of what you just said is. I don't even, yeah.
I still got my top 8 from Facebook, my face, right?
There you go. And so I told her, I was like, well, I feel like any of the sports stuff that I'm seeing, any news that's coming through, I was like, it's always going through Twitter first, and then I'm seeing it. So I'm like, I should just save myself like 8 seconds and just get on Twitter, not really fully understanding like fantasy Twitter specifically. And then when I got into it, like the first day, I was just like, this is too much. Maybe I need to take a step back. Like, following people that, I like their articles and their podcasts. And like, I just started following people and it was just like overwhelming almost. But once it's kind of like, like you're following these certain people and, I think you really do get to see people's personalities. And, very much like you were saying, most of the people, on fantasy Twitter are just incredibly nice, incredibly giving, incredibly, like you mentioned, they wouldn't be doing it if they didn't sincerely like to do it. And everyone was there at one point when it was starting out and just being very curious about, can I grow my skills? If I don't really have skills to begin with, I'm at least interested in, how can I make that work in some sort of way? So I definitely like that motto. And yeah, there's plenty of those people that have kept to the negativity and the hot takes and the, what's the one? The fantasy receipts, if you will, like that level of, just like, I'm going to call you out and I'm going to hope that no one sees my bad takes and bring it back up. But if anything, like you said, with process, it's almost funnier if the things come back up later on. You're like, I really can't believe Davis Mills. I thought he was going to be a thing. It didn't really turn out that well, but it was fun while it lasted. So, well, I really appreciate you coming on, Zach. And guest always gets the last word. So this could be a shout out, a plug, a quote, one that I've offered up. I don't think it's ever been utilized yet, an insult. But maybe that would be negative fantasy Twitter. You don't want to do that. Don't want to put you in a tough spot there. But anything you got?
I mean, trash talking, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you can take it, you can give it out. That's right. Within reason. But no, I would definitely shout out my teams that I work for. Proud to be a part of Fantasy and Frames. They're growing a lot, so definitely check out their content. The best way is to go on YouTube, Fantasy and Frames, subscribe to the channel. There's content coming out almost every day there. I love working with the guys with Triple Play Fantasy. I'm doing their Beyond the Analyst series right now. So we just, when you're listening to this, I don't remember which episode dropped today because it probably was right around today. But last week was Cooter Doodle by the time you're listening to this. So that was a lot of fun. But we did 30 interviews this season, last off season. So check that out on Triple Play Fantasy on YouTube. And then also Club Fantasy FFL puts out so much great content. And then they also support Women of Fantasy Football. Is a great group, the WAF team over there. So love working with them. So I'm working on a fun project with them that I can't really talk about right now, keeping it secret until I'm ready to unveil it. But I'm excited to be working on that. And then obviously I think my biggest shout out I want to give is the Scott Fish Bowl. Scott Fish Bowl 13 is coming up If you have not signed up yet, you can't get in. I don't care how many years you've done it. You can't get in if you don't sign up. So that's probably the funniest thing I see when people are learning about Scott Fishbowl for the first time. I mean, that's how I kind of got into the space, was doing Scott Fishbowl 10 a few years ago. Was people were like, hey, I want to be in Scott Fishbowl. Like, why can't I be in it? And then Scott replies back to him like, hey, you haven't signed up yet. So it's like one of those things where like we send out all these nominations for people to get in, which is very fun, very positive, very exciting. And Scott wants to get everybody in. He's like, you haven't signed up. So I always like to post that all the time. I just post it. We're now under 100 days until Scott Fishbowl starts. So I would guess the first wave of invites are coming out very soon. So make sure you sign up for Scott Fishbowl. It's a lot of fun. If you don't get in, you can still participate pretty much in completely everything else. You can even do a satellite league, typically set up. So you can still be a part of Scott Fishbowl without being in Scott Fishbowl if you don't get in it this year.
Hey, glad to hear it. Well, yeah, Scott Fishbowl 13, and hopefully one of us is going to win it. We'll see.
I mean, at this point, I just want to make the playoffs. I'm 0 for 3 right now in the playoffs. So, I mean, it'd be exciting to win it, but I just want to make the first round of the playoffs.
Hey, we'll start there and we'll go from there. How about that?
I appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely.
Good deal, Zach. Well, you have a good one.
Thank you. You too.